Are we heading for World War III? Fears of dangerous and volatile world under maverick President Trump. The election of Donald Trump sent shockwaves through the international community today as they braced themselves for a more dangerous and volatile world. Experts warn the Trump presidency has increased the chance of war, left the future of NATO in doubt, and threatens to fracture long-standing Western alliances and disrupt global trade deals. There are fears that the nuclear trigger is now in the hands of Maverick, who claims his strongest negotiating hand is his unpredictability and who has happily boasted about nuking ISIS. Only one world leader was toasting Trump's victory: Vladimir Putin. When Trump's victory was announced, there were cheers in the Russian parliament. At stake is the united front by Europe and the United States against Putin's aggression in the Ukraine and Syria. The sanctions imposed on Russia for the annexation of Crimea are now in doubt, as is the strategy for dealing with President Bashar al-Assad in Syria, the deal with Iran to limit its nuclear program, and containment of North Korea. President-elect Trump heaped praise on Putin during the U.S. presidential race, and many now expect him to roll back the sanctions imposed on Russia in 2014. Alarm bells are ringing after Trump dismissed NATO as obsolete, refused to stand by its common defense policy, and warned America would no longer bankroll the alliance. The isolationist president-elect also declined to say if he would go to the aid of the Baltic states if they were threatened by Russia. Dr. Brian Klaas of the London School of Economics fears the Trump presidency will end America's role as the world's police and embolden Putin. "I think we woke up in a much more dangerous world than the one we went to bed in. The U.S. pulling out of NATO would be the most dangerous development in decades, since the end of the Cold War," Dr. Klaas said. He added, "Baltic states are waking up to horror." He has become an apologist for Vladimir Putin, and the Ukraine and Georgia will be extremely nervous. "Some people have been in denial about isolationism, but I don't see how a candidate who has based his campaign on that can then pull back in. The world is already even more unstable and volatile than it was only 24 hours ago." The fear was echoed by General Sir Richard Sheriff, NATO's Deputy Supreme Allied Commander for Europe between 2011 and 2014, in a recent interview with The Atlantic magazine. "NATO depends totally on American leadership and American willingness to come to the aid of allies unconditionally. Therefore, to have a president in the White House who is not necessarily prepared to do that weakens the alliance immeasurably. In terms of the risk equation for whoever's sitting in the Kremlin, if he or she decides to have a go at the Baltic states, he may just decide, 'Yeah, I think the chances are I'll get away with it.' And that, of course, makes the world more dangerous," he said. There are no constraints on Trump being able to launch a nuclear strike. As commander-in-chief, he has sole authority to use nuclear weapon. Some advisors may try to change the president's mind or resign in protest, but ultimately, the Pentagon must comply with the commander-in-chief's order, Bruce G. Blair of Princeton University said. World leaders also fear that a Trump presidency could usher in a global trade war, stall agreements on climate change, and undermine the fight against terrorism. Security chiefs on both sides of the Atlantic were appalled that Republicans refused to condemn the Russia cyber attacks on U.S. institutions and now fear his election could compromise intelligence sharing. French President François Hollande said Trump's victory opens a period of uncertainty. "The U.S. is a vital partner for France, and what's at stake is peace, the fight against terrorism, the situation in the Middle East, economic relations, and the preservation of the planet," Mr. Hollande said. German Chancellor Angela Merkel used her message congratulating Trump on his victory to set down demarcation lines.